evolution takes place with this recording. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
so don't say anything that the FBI might hear.
yeah, well, I mean, I'm just saying that the spirit of change is can come about when we address one of the most important things. Especially for those who can't even understand our relationship with the supreme higher power and everything, but at
Yeah.
least our relationship with nature, our relationship with the basic necessities that we require, where they originate. So if we can establish a better relationship with nature, and everyone can do this on an individual basis from even from their home, you know. So I say
Yeah.
grow
Yeah.
food, learn how to barter. You know, of course,
If you'd take
government
care
doesn't.
of Gus for me, then I would do that.
But I mean, the spirit of it. I mean, you're doing it through your word. Getting some speaking about the basics and honoring, the sanctity of life and the sanctity of relationships between individuals, all these things.
Yeah,
But
it's really important to connect with nature. There's this one song by Creed, I saw them the other day. It's called
mhm,
Faceless Man. It said, I spent some time by the river. It was quiet and the wind was still. I
yeah,
spent some time with nature to remind me of what is real. And
hmm,
it's funny
yeah,
how silence speaks sometimes when we're alone and remember that we feel, because
hmm,
we're all caught up in this day-to-day madness.
yeah,
It's so chaotic now that nobody even wants to talk about what's going on in the world. They just want to hide their head.
right,
And it's not healthy to do that either. You have to
no,
have you have to pay attention at the same time. You have to connect with
hmm,
with just like Emerson said, one of the basic things in Vedas is like the commodities that we eat. Like one of the lowest rungs of spiritual life is anna, food, right?
Anamaya, Anamaya, yep,
Yeah. So we get that from Krishna, and we should recognize that and offer it back to him. And that
yeah,
way, it just doesn't come from the corner store up on 250,
hmm,
It's food comes from a source, and I always tell
mm,
people, when I'm driving around with Uber, I said, this food just doesn't come from John Eggle.
yeah,
It comes from a source, and part of our yoga tradition is to offer it back to that source, who is ultimately a person. And
yeah,
that person is providing us with all kinds of necessities. Emerson
hmm,
talks about this in his essay about nature. It's called the Nature
hmm,
essay. He has a
hmm,
whole subsection called commodities. Everybody
hmm,
can relate to commodities. Krishna
right,
is giving us food.
hmm,
He's giving us air. He's giving us light. He's giving us everything that we need to survive.
yeah,
And we should recognize that, and everybody can understand that. That's like the lowest rung. Even the post office, the postman, you take
hmm,
a letter, you put it in a box, and it gets delivered anywhere around the world.
right,
I just got an order for the last of my Bhagavad Gita's pocketbooks. I
hmm,
had four left. She ordered like some woman from Australia ordered seven of them, but I didn't have that many, so I had to apologize and send
hmm,
it back to her. But it's through eBay. They have an international shipping system that goes out to a port and then is shipped over to Australia for not very much more than the regular
right,
price.
right,
So it's pretty amazing how this whole system is working. And
hmm,
if people actually paid attention to, and not just take it for granted, then
hmm,
they would appreciate it more. Because
yeah,
it's actually a gift, this, and you can actually participate in that gift because everything is meant to serve Krishna because it's coming from him. We have to give it back, like pay it forward,
yeah, yep.
I agree with you totally, except I'm too much of a lazy bum to go out and garden. Like my wife follows this woman, her name is Becky Homesteader, and she does
Hmm,
like everything. She has these videos. This is the way she makes a living. She does videos of her preparing
yeah,
different things. and she even
Yeah.
does her own black beans.
Mm.
Now, you
She
can go
grows.
buy organic black beans at Aldi for like 59 cents a can. Why would you
Right.
go
Right.
through the difficulty of raising your own black beans and do it? That's just too much work. And it seems like some of these people just want to show off on YouTube. You're not doing that. You're just actually trying to connect with nature. But a lot of these people, they just say, I'm better than you. Look at what I'm doing, you know? It's
Mm.
just an ego trip as far as I'm concerned. But what do you think about what the world is going through today, right now? There's a coup going on. Did you know that?
Uh,
In America.
cool.
Coup.
Um,
You know the word coup, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I've heard of all the different measures over the last few days taking place in the government.
Yeah, well, today is
And,
the deadline for all federal workers to either
hmm.
resign or be fired. Millions.
Oh,
The
yeah,
entire government. He wants the entire government gone.
yeah.
And also his friend Elon Musk, who financed his whole campaign, he's got a whole bunch of, geeky, weird teenagers that stormed the IRS and broke into the Treasury. I mean, he had permission to do that from Trump, and so they let him in, armed with a
Mhm.
bunch of zip drives, and they have access to all of our private information now and
Right.
all the payments, like the country's checkbooks.
Hmm.
All your Medicare. You're supported by Medicare, right?
Medicaid.
Medicaid. That's what I mean, Medicaid. They want to cut
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
So you'll be on your own for that. And that's one of the things on the hatchet block. And they just completely shuttered the something that John F. Kennedy started back in the 60s called USAID.
Yeah.
They give food and medical supplies and things like that to people that are
Uh-huh.
starving and suffering in Gaza and all these different places around the world in Ukraine or whatever.
Hmm.
USAID. They just completely shut
Hmm.
it down. They were told not to even go to work.
Yeah.
They have no compassion whatsoever. And Elon Musk doesn't care. He just said it's like all this whole, giving people money, he's he's in charge of actually, they're pretending that they're making him in charge of got tightening the belt of the country, but actually all it is they're just destroying it. It's a mass decapitation of every single agency in the government. The
Mm-hmm.
federal treasury, that's the
Hmm.
first thing he took over. And all the heads of that organization were fired, and
Hmm.
the next thing is going to be all the rest of the civil servants that are supporting this country that have been in place for 250 years. Of course, it's all illegal. You can't fire a civil servant without due cause, but they didn't care
Hmm.
about that.
Right.
But
Yeah, things are shaking up. It's going to, of course, from the perspective of our philosophy and everything, we understand that these things have reaction, but of course, it's not enough to just know it. Uh, in other words, those who oppress in the fifth canto, the fifth canto, those who oppress, uh, you know, their subjects and mistreat others. I mean, there's some
have to
severe
take a
karmic reaction for it. Hmm?
They have to take any king is supposed to take like 1/6 of the entire sinful reaction of their entire populace.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it would create any impression on individuals, but of course, if we look at the story of Narada Muni and who was that hunter? What was his
McGrary,
name?
I love
McGrary.
that. McGrary,
So Narada Muni, he basically told McGrary, this is what's going to happen if you do
I
this.
know
And he
he had
basically,
mystic power. He showed him with his
yeah,
mystic power. Here's all the
right,
animals that are going to kill you
right.
halfway and then watch you die and suffer. and he
So
was very
similarly, yeah, so
conceited.
similarly, I mean, people who oppress others severely, their reaction, according to the Bhagavatam, they go to this hellish planet. And I mean, I don't know if this information could make any leave any impression in our leaders. And hey, this is the reaction. You get crushed. You get
Yeah,
crushed by stones or something
like a
like that in
sugar,
the hellish planet.
like
So,
pressed like a sugar cane in the press.
right. So I mean, but of course, unfortunately, a lot of this comes off as just being mythological or whatever. And
Well, they don't believe it because that's the
yeah,
symptom of the age is that, in the demonic, the divine and demoniac chapters of the Bhagavad Gita is talking about how, they don't think there's any God in control.
right.
Everything is just random. It's all a combination of sex desire. That's how the entire
Hmm.
universe was formed. And there's
Hmm.
no God in control, and everything's just a combination of, uh, you know,
Yeah,
matter. And they don't believe in a life after death. They don't believe in a soul, and they
yeah,
just want to do whatever they want.
right.
But Krishna comes to them as death.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
the face that he shows to those people. But they don't even think that there's anything after death.
yeah,
They're not worried
exactly.
about it because they just want to, eat, drink, and be merry before you die.
Yeah, it's just like someone gets in a car accident, or somehow or other someone hits another car, let's say, and is able to get away, and he's totally intoxicated and doesn't remember the next day. It doesn't mean that just because he doesn't remember, he's not going to get a reaction from hitting that
Yeah,
car. So
it's just like
similarly,
a child that touches fire.
yeah.
The fire doesn't excuse the child just because it's innocent.
So similarly, they may not believe anything after death, but there is something after death, and unfortunately, you're gonna have to pay for it.
Yeah, and that's why there needs to be some justice in the world, because otherwise, if there's no justice, like all these guys that were just let out of prison, all these, you know,
Hmm.
um, insurrectionists, the
Hmm.
guy, the head of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, he got out of
Hmm.
prison, and the guy that was like dressed as like a shaman, the QAnon shaman, he was
Yeah,
dressed like horns and he had like bare chest and tattoos all over the place.
right.
He said, "Oh man, I'm just so glad that my lawyer or that Trump got me out of jail. Now I'm just going to go buy a gun."
Hmm.
And Proud Boys guy, he's going to run for president, and
Hmm.
they got plans. They got and they're going to really they want to fire all of these FBI guys that were involved in that case
Yeah,
just as retribution, and they're going to release the names. They're going to dox them. You know what doxing is?
yeah, yeah. You
Doxing
show
is
up.
like when you release the name of somebody. So they're gonna
Right.
they're gonna like release the names of all these FBI officials, thousands of them,
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
all the public, so that these guys can do whatever they want. And this is
Mm.
part of the retribution. It's a lie because Trump knew that he lost the election, but it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
He's just going to keep on with his lie, and everybody's going to get fired up and work for him. And it's just like it's going to be violent and it's going to be lawless. That's what Timothy Snyder, the historian that my audiobook mentor from Ukraine, he works for the BBT. He really liked his book on tyranny, and he said that this there's going to be a series of economic crises, and
Yeah.
plus, it's going to be rampant lawlessness. It's already
Yeah.
happening. He's breaking law up and down, but he's so ham-handed at it, he doesn't even know what he's doing. Just like when
Hmm.
he fired all the FAA guys, and
Yeah.
then and then they had two plane crashes in 1 week.
Mm.
They had to fish all the bodies out of the Potomac River.
Mm.
And then they fired him and they said, "Oh, well, yeah, it was a mistake. Yeah, come back to work. We need you to get the bodies out." This
Mm.
they just don't even know what they're doing, but they're just firing everybody, and they want to
Well,
privatize it. That's what their goal is. They want to just
Yeah.
break up the government and put his own cronies in there that'll do his bidding. And
Yeah.
then, after the government is all broken up, they want to privatize it. In other words, give all the shiny pieces to the billionaires like Musk and all his cabinet members so that they
Hmm.
can, pick up the shiny pieces and put them in their pocket for their own profit.
Well, we can see how the system of governance, has digressed. If you go back
It's
through the
all
centuries.
in the 12th canto, the deterioration of the age of Kali.
Yeah.
The rulers are like rogues and thieves, and the people will be so harassed that they'll
Hmm.
flee to the mountains.
Yeah.
Like you'll make sugarcane juice
Yeah.
or maple syrup and live. Your underwear will be like barks of trees. I don't know how that would be comfortable. I don't know what they mean by that, but
Well, I actually, I don't know for sure, but I remember reading about the barks of trees they wore, the bark. How in the heck did they wear the bark of trees?
yeah, I
But
know. And also,
let me finish. After being in the Far East, I have an idea what they're talking about.
oh, really?
There's certain palm trees that have like a layer that comes off naturally. It's like a snake shedding its skin,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
and it and it sheds like it looks like a cloth, and it's like it's woven like a cloth, but it's super rough.
Palm
It's like
trees, right? Yeah, I think
rough,
I've seen that on palm. I planted two
rough.
date palm trees in the yard in Arizona when I helped Devananda Pandit, um, not Devananda Pandit, Devananda
That's
Swami,
right.
Dasarat
That's
Pandit.
yeah.
To get you guys mixed up, but he well, I planted two date palm trees and they have some kind of hairy growth on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you
you
could
can.
use that. It's probably not very comfortable. I remember Chedi Shatra. You were probably not around when he was there. He used to take care of the garden and take care of the goats and empty the
Yeah.
garbage. But he was like a one-issue guy. He would always
Uh-huh.
stand there in the garden and just start talking about how horrible abortion was.
Hmm.
And he wore a burlap sack,
Hmm.
and his Brahmins were like newspapers, and it's like that was back in the day there. That was probably before you even came to New
Yeah.
Vrindaban.
Yeah.
But they had this one guy working in the cow barn. His name was Uda Moj.
I
He
remember
was
him.
he was a big, huge guy, and he must have weighed at least 300 pounds, but he'd never
Hmm.
bathed, so they're thinking about like maybe just washing him down every once in a while with a hose.
Hmm. Hmm.
But there are people like that, because they just sent all these crazy people from all the city temples. There was one guy named Standing Dan. He was catatonic, schizophrenic. He would just
Hmm.
stand in the garden all day like a
Hmm.
scarecrow. His name was Standing Dan. That's what they called him. But anyway, those are the pastimes of the old New Vrindavan farm.
Hmm.
But it's very difficult to connect with devotees. Tulsi Gabbard's probably going to be confirmed, and all the
Hmm.
devotees think she's the best thing since sliced bread. And
Hmm.
even Sankirtan, who's supposed to be like a pundit, like a politically aware. I mean, he writes articles about the election and everything, but he is
Hmm.
completely without a clue as far as who Tulsi Gabbard is. I respect him deeply, and I give him all respect, but he doesn't really know what's going on as far as this woman is concerned. And
Hmm.
I try to tell him stuff, but he just ignores it. And
Hmm.
it seems like when you get a certain age, it's like you're set in your ways. Oh, I think we should be nice to her. We should give her all the help that which she needs. No, she's not going to do anything for the society. She's
Hmm.
in her little power grab right now, and she wants power.
Well, the
And
political arena is like that. And people who are in politics always have different kinds of agendas. Naturally, I mean, that's why they're there. The
her agenda,
political.
she doesn't even have an agenda. Her agenda in an authoritarian state is to do whatever the dear leader wants. And he was saying, oh, well, maybe she's going to be director of national intelligence. She should find out where all these immigrants are that have been kidnapped in 2019 and figure out where they are and give them back to their parents. She doesn't have any jurisdiction over that. He doesn't even know what
Mhm.
the Director of National Intelligence does. So he
Mhm.
has no clue, period.
Mhm.
And he still thinks he's like, he's been studying politics and as far as the mob art goes for like 50 years for his whole
Mhm.
life, but he still doesn't even understand the basic idea of like trying to link what is going on in the world today with the Vedic um, paradigm, see things through the eyes of the scripture. Prabhupada was very clear about that.
Mhm.
Prabhupada was talking about how, there's so much bad things going on in the world in the name of nationalism, in the name of science, in the name
Mhm.
of, whatever, these cheating yogis and everything. These things have to be stopped. This is
Mhm.
our purpose of our Krishna consciousness movement to stop this because people are suffering. If we don't do anything about it, it says in the Bhagavatam in the fourth canto, it says devotees are generally unaware of the happenings within the material world because they're always busy in their activities for spiritual advancement. Nonetheless, when there's a calamity in human society, they cannot remain impartial. If they do not do something to relieve the distressed condition of human society, it is said that due to such neglect, their spiritual knowledge diminishes. It's like a pot, like a clay pot that they have in India. If it's cracked, all the water is going to run out. And that's your spiritual tejas.
So
It's just
now
going
we
to spread
acknowledge
out.
there's some. Now we acknowledge that something needs to be done. So we can speak about we can speak about uh, what is wrong, but now how do we substitute it? How do we go forward and
Well, there's a
how
lot
do
of
we go
ideas. I
forward
mean,
with
people are talking about it now because
it?
people that are actually smart and are paying attention and actually
Mhm.
care about the suffering of humanity. There are all kinds of interfaith groups and philosophers and people that are trying to organize and try to push back, and it's working in some cases. They're
Okay.
trying to slow walk it.
Send me a list. Send me a list of some of these groups in that, if you have them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, my favorite group is Indivisible.
Okay.
They are
Maybe.
actually pushing back in the 2009, and what they're actually a pair, a man and husband and wife couple, that a young couple, not really that young, but I mean they're probably in their 30s
Mhm.
or late 30s, but their um their method of resistance is you have to go through legislature. That's why that's what the agenda is how to change things, at least in a democracy. We still have a democracy a little bit nowadays. And so
Mhm.
they're learning lessons from the Tea Party back in the day because they actually stopped the Republicans from killing Obamacare.
Mhm.
They stopped it, and that's through their organizing. And they're trying to stop this whole coup that's happening right in front of our eyes.
Mhm.
And all the politicians are doing that too. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is the leader of the minority leader of the House. He says, "I got all my eyes on all of you congressional members, and if you don't have some town halls, I've got my eye on you. You better do it."
Mhm.
So they're going to have town halls, the Democrats, and the advantage is that even the Republicans are embarrassed by what's going on. This is just
Mhm.
completely. You know, Trump says, like for example, he says he wants to get all the people out of Gaza. It's
Yeah, I
not
heard.
rubble.
He
It's
wants
just a,
another.
a land. It's just, we gave him all these bombs, Israel. Bibi
Mhm.
Netanyahu was just a warmonger and he bombed the place out of existence. And now it's just a
Yeah.
smoking group of twisted steel girders and cement. But still, people want this is their home and they want
Yeah.
to live there. And they
Yeah.
said, I'd rather live in a tent than be put somewhere else, so they have a right to stay there. I mean, but Trump says we're going to even use the military maybe to clear out
Yeah.
all these Palestinians. It's actually a
Mhm.
repeat of what happened in 1948. There's
Yeah.
a name for it, and they ethnically cleansed all the Palestinians in that area, and
Mhm.
but he wants to make a golf course because it's right on
Yeah.
the Mediterranean Sea. He wants to make a nice resort town, and
Yeah.
he's going
Yeah.
to work with, I'm sure the 1.4 billion Muslims around the world will be fine with that. And people on Fox News are saying, yeah,
Yeah.
they should thank
Yeah.
President Trump for offering to do that. He even said that he'd let them use it. They can like
Yeah.
walk around and play golf on his golf course over their destroyed home. I'm sure they
Right.
wouldn't have a problem. They should be thankful for that we're doing this for them.
Hmm.
I mean, there's only 1.4 billion Muslims, and I'm sure that after we throw them off of their holy land, they won't have a problem with that. I mean, why
Hmm.
would why would they complain? And I'm sure Trump will let them become members of their exclusive golf club too.
Hmm.
They don't
Hmm.
have any money. They're just poor Gazan Palestinians. And he's not going to let it. He doesn't care though. It's just like all he thinks about is real estate and money. Everything's based on that. He doesn't have any idea of how of any kind of
Hmm.
international affairs or dealing with diplomatic situation. And Bibi's Netanyahu, he's just a warmonger. And it's going to start World War III if it keeps
Well,
it
and
up.
you got all the world oligarchs too. They're all kind of like they're all in on it. I think it's just
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
the
Let's
oligarchy
just
that's happening.
let's just
Musk is
clean.
actually the president right now. He's actually in charge. And
Yeah, they
Trump is
want.
like acting like a buffoon as if he's a fool. But actually, Musk, behind the scenes, he's manipulating all the levers of government so that he can take over.
Yeah.
And Trump can't do anything about it. When you control the levers of government, even Congress can't do anything, and the citizens
Hmm.
can't do anything. And so we're no longer citizens. We're no longer, I mean, if this coup succeeds, the congressman will be ineffective. The judicial
Hmm.
branch will be ineffective. They want to
Yeah.
punish all of the media outlets, the fourth estate they call it. They'll all be
Hmm.
bending the knee like they already have.
Hmm.
Like they give them millions of dollars to say, we'll leave you alone. Leave us alone if we'll give you millions of dollars, for your for
Hmm.
your inauguration, and then you know, and they settle all these lawsuits for meaningless lawsuits for, oh, it was unfair. You let Kamala Harris be on this NBC and you didn't ask me, or they did ask him, but he didn't want to come on. But they're suing him anyway. That's all he does
Hmm.
is sue these media outlets and threaten them to put them in jail. And that's what fascists do. They destroy the media, they destroy the judiciary, they destroy all of the institutions of government, and
Hmm.
then they take complete power. And when they're in power, then it's an authoritarian state. It's no longer, they were elected just like Hitler was elected, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so that's what they do.
Fanaticism.
This is how they roll, and it's happened again and again. I've studied many books on, I've read many books. It's called The Strong. There's one called The Strong Man. I read that book, and Rachel Maddow's book, the prequel, which is pretty chilling.
Mm.
And Steve Bannon's book. I'm also reading 1984 right now. Do you know 1984?
Yeah, George Orwell.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never read it, but I know the gist of it.
It's really funny. I got a meme that I put up on Super Bowl Sunday, Super Bowl's coming up. Donald Trump will be there.
Yeah.
Everybody will cheer. But it's really easy. Orwell had a saying in that book. It said it's really easy to control the people. Just give them football and beer. And it's
Yeah,
got all these
exactly.
blank faces in the stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, let them eat cake. Just give them
Yeah.
some sense gratification. It was like in the Roman Empire was similar to that. And it collapsed because they just based their civilization on sense gratification. The sense, if the people are getting their sense gratification, then they'll be
Mhm.
happy. But if as soon as they're not, then they throw the bums out. And
Yeah.
they can never be happy completely. But if they're addicted to sense gratification, they won't pay attention to what's really going on.
Hmm.
And
Opiate of the masses.
the opiate of the masses is football, and
Mhm.
it's um it's a very bleak situation because Yeah, it's kind of tragic because, like America was supposed to be Prabhupada's shining city on the hill, where would guide the
Hmm.
rest of the world. With all the other countries in the world
Hmm.
would follow America because we're known as the best materially off, We're like the lame man, we're
Hmm.
like the blind man, and you put the lame man on the blind man's shoulders, and the lame man tells the blind man where to go.
Hmm.
And so we're blind spiritually, but India is lame. And he figured like if everybody's following America, so if I get, you know, get the Americans to do things, then everybody will follow. And it was his strategy of how to make the whole world Krishna conscious. But
Yeah, I
now,
mean,
nobody's going to follow America now. We're a pariah now.
mhm.
We have no credibility. Nobody, if Tulsi Gabbard gets the post of DNI, it's going to be horrible for our national intelligence because nobody will trust us anymore.
Mhm.
I mean, the entire world knows that Tulsi Gabbard sucks up to all these authoritarian leaders like Putin and Assad in Syria and tries
Mhm.
to, you know, make motions to leave him alone and not accuse him of anything. She's got all these conspiracy theories that she says, She was talking to a group of young girls that were burned very badly because Assad bombed them,
Mhm.
and they were burn victims. And she
Mhm.
was telling she wa- she had an interpreter there, the
Yeah.
Syrian guy, and the girls couldn't speak English, but she told them, and she wanted the interpreter to say, "How do you know that this was Assad or Russia? How do you know it wasn't Al Qaeda?" But even these
Mhm.
girls are probably smart enough to know that Al Qaeda doesn't have friggin' airplanes to bomb anybody.
Right.
So she's this complete liar.
Mhm.
She's justifying the murder of a million people, a 500,000 Russians and a 500,000 Syrians. And she wants to be the director of national intelligence. She's coming up with all these excuses for she went to Congress 7 times to make excuses for Assad. Assad's her
Mhm.
buddy. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just like incredibly, even the former director of the CIA said it is going to hurt national intelligence because nobody will share anything with us. And when they
Mhm.
don't share information that's vital to our country, then what happens? We get attacked because we don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
But the whole world knows that, but apparently Sankirtan doesn't. And he's supposed
Mhm.
to be a smart devotee Prabhupada disciple. I don't have anything against him. I respect him, and I think he's very kind. But
Mhm.
you don't be kind. You can't be kind and be nice and give a snake what it wants, which is milk and bananas. Because you know what happens? You get
Mhm.
bit.
Mhm.
So we have to find out I just want to kind of try to educate the leadership bit by bit because they don't want to talk
Well,
about no.
one thing that's been a sure measure, one thing that has been a sure measure of resistance towards any social fabric throughout history,
Yeah,
and works.
what's
I'll give you
that?
an example. I'll give you an example. Tapa Punch told me one time, and it makes
I
perfect
don't
sense.
listen to Tapa Punch. I'm really,
Well, okay,
he's like a
wasn't him. Okay,
misogynist. He's a conspiracy theorist, but whatever, I guess you can take gold from a filthy place.
yeah. Okay, so anyways, I won't even say what he said, but here's the it's Gandhi's an example.
Yeah,
The resistance was that what does the government want? They want control, right?
yeah,
They want control. They want to control people.
right. They don't
So
want the people in control. They want to control the people. So you don't
yeah, they
have a
want to.
voice anymore.
They can't control someone who, in other words, who's willing to let go of everything. So in other words, if we're willing to give up some of the uh, comforts in life that they depend on to enrich themselves, boycotts, all these boycotts and that. These things work, you know.
I don't think they work. I've heard that
They
they
do
don't
work.
work. These boycotts. When have you seen
Well,
a
they worked in
boycott
India.
work?
They worked in India.
It didn't work. The whole Swaraj movement,
English.
it was a
Well, the
disaster.
English moved out. Eventually, they let it go.
Yeah, but it wasn't caused by this,
Well, I'm sure
boycott.
it helped. I'm sure it helped.
They
I'm sure
slaughtered
it
all
helped.
the people that were like in the Salt Rebellion and I mean, like all these things, unless there's a spiritual solution,
Well, the spiritual
boycott,
solution is the only thing, yes. But meanwhile, what the spiritual solution? Not everyone is going to come and reach for it to join the bandwagon of resistance. They need something concrete also. So simultaneously, prasadam distribution and chant the holy names, you know,
yeah,
and then twice a week follow Ekadasi and don't eat that day. Makes a big difference,
yeah.
you know.
Like how is it going to affect these billionaires though? What is it? What is a boycott? Musk has got more money than God.
No, he doesn't.
He's got 400. You know how much money the entire cabinet of Trump's cabinet has? It's something like $400 billion. That's just
Yeah,
his cabinet members.
yeah.
But anyway, we're running out of time here. But do you
Hmm.
want to add anything Christian conscious? Adi says I
Well,
sound
that's
like
I'm just
CNN
the
like
point.
sometimes.
I'm just saying in terms of resistance, twofold. Of course, the spiritual dimension is that it begins. Everything begins grassroots. Every movement begins with a person.
Mhm.
Christianity started with Christ. Buddha started with, so, and people were inspired. So as devotees of Krishna, our responsibility is we become, we share. What is the resistance? The resistance as we, we take it upon ourselves. Okay, here's another way that I heard it the other day. Great explanation. Banu Bhatta said in class, our movement, this is not about group realization. It's self-realization.
Right. It's got to start at the root.
Self-realization. Yeah, and
Oh,
that
another
that
another
applies. And that
Jim
yeah,
Wallace,
and that
my Christian friend, he said something. We're almost less than a minute here, but he said it's not
yeah,
about resistance; it's about resilience, and depending on the faith of Jesus Christ
right,
and
right,
Christian consciousness.
right. I mean, we
Anyway,
try our best. Krishna's in control. We try our best. We try to follow as best as we can the instructions we've been given and share that with others and inspire others. And
yeah,
ultimately, if Krishna wants to everything to go into hell in a handbasket, then that's Krishna's prerogative. But we know, as far as the scriptures say,